I think probably one of the foremost questions, I'm sure you're asked this a lot, is how do I recognize, a predator or a sexual abuser? And I know there's no simple answer to that question.
No, but that's an easier question to answer than how do I can tell if a child's been sexually abused, because there's a lot of different ways, and we can talk about that in a minute. And the first place to start is adults that are spending alone time with kids. Now, that doesn't mean they're all bad. I mean, thank goodness we have big brothers, big sisters, and wonderful things like that. But any time a child is spending alone time with an adult, the parent needs to debrief on what they did together, an adult or a teen. If there is someone in a community, for example, the house where all the kids go after school when the bus drops them off before mom gets home, if there's an adult whose interest in kids just seems a little bit more than everybody else's, keep an eye out. Make sure you talk to your child about what's going on with that adult. If there is an adult whose entire social life seems to be kids and adolescents and doesn't have any other adults in his or her social life, that's one of the kinds of persons we might want to watch out for. And sad but true, one of the times of risk is when we introduce a new adult into a family unit. A parent gets married, a parent brings in a paramour. That really, and we hate to think like that because we want unmarried parents to be able to have their own lives. But when we choose to bring a partner into our house and our kids are still there, have to pay very, very close attention to that relationship.
And these people are often master manipulators. I mean, they're very good usually at developing ways to not get caught and also developing patterns of behavior to sort of ensnare the child.
Well, yeah, and I'm thinking of a man that I interviewed when I wrote my book who had been a convicted pedophile, served his time. He talked about having done such a good job at gaining this mom's trust that when her son told him that every time I come home from visiting this man, I have a rash on the penis, and the mom confronted him, he was able to convince the mom, oh, he just changed the brand of laundry soap he used. So the point of that is, he did such a good job at ingratiating himself with the mom of his victim that she bought a relatively implausible excuse because she trusted him so much. So it's not only that the predators engage the child, the predators engage the adults and the community so they can operate under the cover of trusted relationships.
Now, is the predator who would prey on a younger child kind of the same mindset or the same tactics as somebody who might go for a teenager or a young adult?
There's clinical research to show that people that are sexual predators tend to have, in a lot of cases, one specific age group or body type that's their preference, and there's people speculate on why that's the case. So the pedophile is typically the person interested in the younger prepubescent child, and a phebophile, that's the big medical word, is someone who's attracted to adolescents. So, and the tactics that you're going to use to engage an adolescent are necessarily going to be different than the tactics you're going to use to engage a little one, because there's different things that the kids enjoy doing.
Would it kind of take the form more, I don't know, is almost a seduction? I'm just thinking you get like the high school math teacher with
that's a perfect example, and we sometimes get a perfect storm in a high school where we've got teachers that are sort of hitting that midlife point where they're kind of questioning their own attractiveness and their own sexuality, and gee, like, I'm 45 and can't do what I used to be able to do when I was 30, and it's not unusual for kids to get crushes on teachers, and the teacher becomes, kind of like the one that everybody giggles about. No, what's she wearing today? And it is possible. So in one scenario, you've got the situational stuff where something just goes to somebody's head, and a grown-up and a teen inappropriately think they've fallen in love. And that scenario tragically happens and ruins people's lives. Which is one of the reasons why I really think we need to be doing more in-service trainings in schools to help teachers know that if they're feeling a crush, that's a red flag for them. On the other hand, there's predators that very specifically put themselves in positions where they'll have access to kids of the age that they're attracted to, and it's not situational or dynamic, it is an ongoing pattern that they just repeat again and again.
It's planned, and I can only imagine as a young, hormonal teenager, on the verge of everything, how that must affect the victim or the person who's been abused, thinking, is this my fault? Did I do something? Is this, how I responded?
A point that I make anytime I can, especially when parents are listening, is one of the biggest gifts we can give our kids is for them to understand that sexual arousal is an autonomic response. So when we have a 15-year-old girl staring at this hunky 32-year-old math teacher, science teacher, whoever it is, and her body begins to feel ways she's never had felt before, when a boy gets an erection, he knows what's going on, right? It's right there. There's no question. When a teenage girl who hasn't been taught about sexual arousal starts to have feelings physically, she will often mistake that for love. Ooh, right? And if one of the biggest gifts parents can give their kids is the understanding of the difference between physical arousal and emotional feelings. With younger kids, one of the things we know is one of the ways that predators maintain continued compliance is because they induce sexual arousal, if not sexual orgasm, in a child. The child then has this horrible confusion of something that was so wrong feeling so good, and then that's how they get sucked into thinking that they were compliant. So anything we can do to help parents communicate that information to their kids is a gift we can help every parent give their child.
How big of a role do instincts play in identifying potential abusers? Should you trust your gut?
Always trust your gut. I mean, not enough to call the police, but if something doesn't feel right to you, there's a reason for that to you. And it may just be that the instinct kicks up something in you, right? Wearing the same color shirt as someone that, did something annoying to you 20 years ago. But if your instincts are kicked up, you have to stop and figure out why, and you have to follow up. And trust your kid's instincts. If a kid says, I don't want to kiss grandma, I don't want to kiss Aunt Janet, I don't want to, just let the kid have their own way. I mean, it may hurt somebody's feelings, but I'd rather that than my child know that he or she is going to have to kiss or touch people he or she doesn't want to have to kiss or touch. You teach them, oh, I don't kiss, I shake hands, right? You're teaching them control over their own body and the right to make their own choices.